The majority of people are raising children with someone they can't stand anymore. Why is that a norm? As one of my colleagues said, if Apple sold you a product that fails 50% of the time, would you buy it? This is the state of marriage, the institution. So people will more and more begin to do up front that which they seem to be doing after the fact anyway. And there's going to be lots of these kind of creative ideas. And at first they're going to look weird. And at first people will say it doesn't work. Like for any other innovation. There are the early adopters, and then there are the ones who are kind of holding the fort. And you need both. You always need the tension between the two. You need those who make sure that you don't trample everything that existed before, because you need history and tradition and roots. And you need those who push you forward, because if you don't innovate, you fossilize and you die. And that's true for any living organism, and so too for the institution of marriage. Do you keep searching till you find that which gives you the utter certainty that you have found? Or do you accept anything that feels like you are making a compromise because it's preferable? Tell me your life, tell me your economic situation, tell me your professional situation, tell me your health situation, tell me your age, and then I'll tell you what I think. I think that these questions are very different if you ask them at 26 and if you ask them at 38. And that's for a woman. And they are even more different if you ask them at 45, or do you want a primary relationship that you see as the hub of everything? Or do you want a primary relationship that is one piece of your life and it gives you access to a lot of other sources of meaning and happiness? That is perfectly viable as well. People used to divorce because they were unhappy. Today people divorce because they could be happier. That's a very different threshold. Is it good enough? Am I getting my ROI? Is this the deal I signed up for? You know, this is the language, people. I don't know if you know it. And this gnawing, is it good enough? Could it be better? Am I settling? Am I making a compromise? What part of myself is not being developed here? That whole thing is a fundamental question of the way we're thinking about this thing. And my way of answering is generally, the more specific, the more accurate I can be. Otherwise, I have no idea. I have no idea for you if it is better to accept something that isn't what you think is perfect, because this is the era of perfection and everything has to fit, or if this is perfectly fine and good enough for now, for other things that you want, which this relationship is making possible for you. And that doesn't mean you think relativity, that means you think contextually. I think that today, everybody who enters a committed relationship knows enough about the world around to understand that you do your best and you hope and you will try to, but it is not a given. It is part of the erotic imagination. It is not part of reality. Now, reality is a very important piece of our consciousness, but it's not our memory and it's not our fantasy. So, when people talk about monogamy, what are we talking about? Are we talking about a primary commitment, an emotional loyalty? Are we talking about a sexual exclusiveness? What are we talking about? When you say, if I love someone, I would like to hope that this love is for life, gorgeous, go for it. I mean, if it's an idea that transports you and that motivates you, go for it. Me, unfortunately, I sit in an office where people come like they go to the dentist because they're in pain. And so they all started like that. They all had a dream. They all had a dream. They're sitting there because something happened to that dream that just didn't manifest. And many times, they still talk about their partner like their best friend. And I'm thinking, for God's sakes, I don't think you behave like that with your best friend. In fact, your best friend would never take it. they would be long gone the way that we allow ourselves to behave in our intimate relationships, like in the families, by the way. Not at work, not with your friends, nobody else. Something about this à perpétuité allows people to treat each other like shit. That's actually, if they actually lived with the notion that this is not a given, that if you don't act decent, respectful, caring, loving, compassionate, something, that then this thing doesn't go on, there would be a lot less violence in families and in romantic love. This is the last thing for you to think about. If I said to you how many companies or artists or musicians that are inspiring you, probably everybody would have a long list of people. Now I'm just going to ask you, how many of you can think of more than one couple that you think inspires you? Inspires you. That has a spark, that has that, as we say, je ne sais quoi. That something. And just, you will notice that many of you probably can come up with just about one, if any, and not 5. And that says something about a thing which we all dream about, aspire to, want to, make compromises for, to then have that kind of evaluation. It is a bizarre situation. It's bizarre. You know, there's not where are the models? You know, where do you go look? And yet we tenaciously want it, but we don't have many things to look up to. It's a very negative moment to end like this. I need somebody to make this an American ending. For me, there's no problem in ending on a sad note, but I know that this is not the right theater. So.
Can you guys see why she's my number one? Right? Thank you for coming. We love you. Thank you.
Hello. My name is Olive.
Yes.
You went to... Yeah. I run the show New York Reel, and you've been on Brian's London Reel.
Yes, correct.
And very happy to talk to you today. I think today my biggest takeaway is that we have to think global. It's so interesting. We're talking about with these girls how we brought up Asian and we're not taught about love. We don't say the word love. We say I care about you.
I saw all the Asian.
Or you make a huge meal for them.
Yeah, you just cook. It's just food. Are your books translated in
Yes,
Chinese?
yes, in Taiwanese and in Chinese, both.
Yeah.
In Vietnamese and in Korean and in Japanese.
And I try to feel alright, so I never